Somebody hit the World Trade Center or
the Trade Center.
The World Trade Center. There's a fire on the upper floors.
This just in, you are looking at obviously a very disturbing live shot there. That is the World Trade Center, and we have unconfirmed reports this morning
that a plane has crashed into the World Trade Center. We don't know anything more than that. We don't know if it was a commercial aircraft. We have no idea how many were on board or what the extent of the injuries are right now.
Jules, this is Ryan. Lives on an airplane that's been hijacked. If things don't go well, I'm looking good. I just want you to know I absolutely love you. I want you to do good. So happy to find that I just totally love you, and I will see you later. Bye, babe. Bye-bye.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
That looks like a second plane.
Right there's another one. Another plane just hit. Right. Oh my God. Another plane has just hit. It hit another building. Flew right into the middle of it.
Oh my goodness, there's another one.
It seems to be on purpose.
Oh my goodness. Now it's obvious, I think.
I leaned over and whispered into his right ear. A second plane hit the second tower. America is under attack.
Today, we've had a national tragedy. 2 airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. We're looking at a live picture from Washington, and there is smoke pouring out of the Pentagon. It would appear that there has been another major explosion, this one in the nation's capital. There is smoke in the air over the Pentagon.
This is as close as we can get to the base of the World Trade Center. You can see the firemen assembled here, the police officers, FBI agents, and you can see the 2 towers. A huge explosion now, raining debris on all of us. We better get out of the way.
We're getting reports that a part of the tower, the second tower, the one a bit further to the south of us, has collapsed. We are checking on that.
United 93, that traffic to you is 1 o'clock, 12 miles eastbound 370.
Negative contact. We're looking United 93.
When I took the call over, there was a soft-spoken, calm gentleman. I asked him his name. He told me Todd Beamer. He said, "Lisa, would you recite the Lord's Prayer with me?" He said, "Okay, let's roll."
We've got a report from a guy at 24 of a cloud of black smoke off his lap.
Wheeling to 97.
But we don't.
So it was the first gunshot that went, and everybody kind of freaked out a bit. And then there's a second, and I kind of sort of blanked out at that point, but I think I felt some sort of debris kind of like hit my forehead or something. Then we ran into our band teacher's office.
He says he actually saw the shooter.
I saw him.
Good morning, and welcome to another edition of Let It Be Known. And I tell you what, so much is going on to the point where Neil almost forgot today was the anniversary of 9/11.
For sure. Peace and love, and welcome to Let It Be Known, family. A lot of heavy topics to discuss this morning. And starting it off with September 11th, lives lost, nation rattled. But we also want to uplift the 12 Black firefighters who died at the World Trade Center helping others. All 12 were members of the Vulcan Society, and that's the fraternal organization for Black firefighters in New York. And all the families that were affected and impacted by that as well, of course.
Yeah. It was so surreal. And a quick personal experience. I was working for Gannett in New York, Westchester. My assignment that morning was, and I had gotten the assignment the night before from my editor to go down to this school in Mount Vernon where a janitor had been working there for years, but he had been hiding out. He had hijacked a plane in 1973, and they had finally caught up with him. And that was going to be the huge story. And I was the one on that story. When I got back to the office, I got to the school early that morning before the planes, obviously, and I got back to the office. And in most newsrooms, there's these big TV screens, and we were not any different than anyone else. And as I walk in, the first plane had just hit, and one of my colleagues, a guy named Ken, immediately said, "That's not an accident. That's a terror attack." And we were like, "Oh boy." A few minutes later, we knew the second plane hit, and Ken was more than and unfortunately prophetic that it was a terrorist attack. It just changed everything in this country. The way you go to the airports, the TSA, it changed everything, Neil.
For sure. A lot of people in the chat are talking about where they were when 9/11 happened. I think everybody can remember that day, what they were doing, where they were going, and just the impact that it had on all of us as a nation. And even if you weren't in New York or where the plane, I believe, hit, the third plane had hit, we were all terrified because we didn't know what city was next, if there was going to be a next city. And it just created that's what terrorism feels like, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then fast forward to, the number one threat of terrorists today is white men.
Well, yeah, white supremacy. And we are living it. I was saying beforehand about the story of this black lawyer I came across yesterday, who left the United States for France. She's a young black woman, 40 years old. And she had said enough is enough. This is even before the, Trump, as you say, the Trump clan took over. And she said she had 200,000 in one account and 70,000 in another account. She said, that's, you know what, I'm quitting the firm and I'm gone. I'm out of here. And she's the update on her. The last update was that she was living a pretty decent life in France. She's a social media influencer and an artist. And that's what she's doing for peace of mind, to stay away from this that we are in today over here in this country.
Yeah. We talked about it for, a lot of black people are becoming world citizens. You know what I mean? Global citizens. The United States isn't what it used to be. And what we're learning, and there are reports now, Stacey, that travel to the United States is down.
Mm-hmm.
And travel abroad is on the uptick because this is just not the place to be anymore. It's not the America that our forefathers were creating for us. It is turned back into this place of being held hostage in a sense.
Well, and also those who are coming, see, authoritarianism and fascism sometimes attracts more fascist people, and those are the ones who might be coming over to join the circus. So it's not a good time, and it's interesting that we're talking about it being so bad on the anniversary of 9/11. Because 9/11 did kick off so much things. There are milestones. If you look back, like we said, 9/11, the emergence, really, before Donald Trump, many didn't realize just how bad the response was going to be to the first black president. And what we're seeing is a continuation of that. Obama has been out of office for a decade,
right?
And this is all a response. The Project 2025 and the rise of white supremacy and white nationalism is all a response to the fact that, and he may not, in some people's eyes, he wasn't even a good president, right? In some people's eyes. But it's regardless of whether he was a good president, a bad president, a great president, or whatever. And there's lists that say he's the best president ever, right? The response is still hot and heavy in America.
For sure. And just before we move on, our prayers go out. This is a hard day for those who lost loved ones on 9/11. and just the trauma that it probably brings back to a lot of people in this country. And so, our hearts and prayers go out to them today.
Absolutely. And Niall, you brought this up either last night or this morning. I don't know. I'm discombobulated. But the murder of Dorian Johnson. Folks who may not know the name right off the bat, he was the eyewitness to the murder of Michael Brown.
Mm-hmm.
And he was shot and killed. Dorian Johnson was again, what a shame. And we're talking about, and we'll get into Charlie Kirk later, but we're talking about gun violence in America.
For sure. Dorian Johnson was the one that the originator of Hands Up, Don't Shoot during the Ferguson situation. And so it became a rallying cry after the killing of Michael Brown in 2014. And he was shot and killed over the weekend in Ferguson. And so, I mean, like you said, gun violence, it is a huge issue in this country. And, when we think about the Tennessee Three, they were on the front line for gun violence. They were censored. They had to run again. Only the black brothers, not the white woman, but the black brothers. Let's get that clear.
But I applaud her for
I totally
being a true ally.
Allies are important.
Yeah.
But the three of them were on the front line for gun violence, and these white men in power refuse to address this epidemic in our country.
100%. 100%. And folks, but listen, when she say these white men in our country refuse to address this, we're talking both sides of the aisle. Both sides of the aisle are benefiting from this violence. Both sides of the aisle are benefiting from the NRA and others who will stand there and tell you that, you know what, look the other way, thoughts and prayers, when these kids get shot up, as they again happened yesterday. And that's all we ever hear from them, because they can't say anything else while they continue to enrich themselves or get enriched by the NRA and other groups like that.
Yeah. We have got to do something about gun violence in this country, because, it's not just impacting, people who are, calling for gun reform. It's impacting those who are protecting the Second Amendment right as well. And I don't think that it's common sense, right? Even when we look at immigration reform, I think that everybody agrees that this country has an immigration problem and that we can use some immigration reform. But it's not what you do, it's how you do it. Just like a lot of Black people want to have guns. We want guns. We just don't feel like you have to have AK-47 and assault rifles and military weapons that are used for war. Those type of weapons should not be on the streets in the United States of America. That's what we're saying. We're not saying no guns. We're saying gun reform. Mm-hmm. Common sense.
Yeah, common sense stuff. You're right. That's been a long fought issue. Why is it? Okay, the Second Amendment says you can have the right to bear arms, but nowhere in that Constitution does it say that you should be walking around, citizens should be walking around with AK-47s and AR-15s and things like that.
No, has no place on the streets here in the United States of America.
None whatsoever. So Kamala Harris has come out swinging in her memoir, and you knew it had to be something explosive because she set up this tour and everything, but she calls Biden's re-election bid reckless. In her forthcoming memoir, she says Biden's decision to run again was fueled by ego and not the nation's best interest. She details how his age showed, polls signal concerns, and his inner circle undermined her at every turn. So really, here's a question. Was she right that Biden's team ignored voter concerns about his leadership while setting her up to fail?
It probably was a little bit of everything. But man, if you want, I think she's preparing for a movie. Sounds like a manuscript for a movie. I read she said something about, was it grace or recklessness to allow Biden to do what he did? And she said, in hindsight, it was recklessness, which she's taking accountability for. So basically, she is saying in the book what we were saying, especially remember when they had that Juneteenth celebration.
Yes.
And they were that's when really everybody was like, that's when George Clooney said enough is enough.
Enough is enough. Yeah. But you're right. You said something very important. Now, people might at first glance say, well, she's lashing out or she's blaming folks. She is accepting a good part of that blame. But the other part that I'm sure if you read the book, I haven't read it, obviously.
I don't think it's out yet.
It's not. No, it's not.
No, they just dropped the excerpt. Yesterday, they did a tease.
Yeah, they did.
It was a tease. Yeah.
But I suspect that when you read the book, she is probably going to go into what we heard for 4 years in that White House, and we've been in that White House a lot, that there was always this tension between the president's staff and the vice president's staff, and which suggests that there was always tension between her and Joe Biden. And I think we're going to see a lot of that in that book. I believe so. We'll see, but I believe that.
Okay, that's interesting, because I don't know if it was so much the tension between the two of them, more so the tension between their staffs. Well, there was a lot of that. Yeah, I think that was more so the tension was. I think it was between the staff. Her staff. Remember early on, Simone Sanders was a part. First, she was, she helped. She was a part of the Biden team to get him elected. Kamala came on board. She thought that she was going to get the press secretary role, allegedly, and it went to someone else before even Corinne John came on.
Right.
And then she ended up working for the vice president, and then that didn't last long. And then there were like these little leaks, Kamala Harris is difficult to work with, this and that. I think it was more so that, but I think it was more so Joe Biden's staff than it was him.
She does, in that excerpt, one of the excerpts, she does say that, she criticized Biden for giving her the border czar type job, the job of that border situation. And she seems to indicate that she felt undermined a lot. And that was one of the biggest rumors that we heard repeatedly in the 4 years, that she was being undermined, whether it was by Biden himself or his staff or, somebody, other people in the cabinet. But she certainly was being undermined a lot.
And I mean, and let's be clear, the vice president really doesn't do anything. So, I mean, how much was, being undermined? The vice president, we know the vice president, you sit and wait in case something happens. So, I mean,
think it's a little bit more than that. Yeah.
I mean, but in reality, the vice president really has, doesn't do anything. I mean, they do, and that was a huge role that he gave her. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I'm saying go for it, sis, because I think that she is like a lot of Black women, just fed up with trying to be a part of the inside of fixing the system. And it's just never enough. It's just never enough. So she's like, now I'm going to write a book. I'm going to tell it. Let's turn it into a movie. I like what the Obamas and Meghan Markle are doing over there on Netflix. Give me a deal. I got some content to put out. But yeah, I mean, she's making us want to know what's inside this book. And that's what's important to the publisher, I think. Let's sell this book.
Without question, that is the point of it all. But which you knew when they said she was doing a book, you knew it had to be at least a couple of explosive things in there. And so I think we're getting a small taste of one of the things.
because
Patricia-
there were rumors, I think people, want to know, what was her and Jill Biden's relationship really alike? Because a lot of people said that Dr. Biden didn't really particularly care for Kamala. You know what I mean? So I want to know about that too. And I hope that she tells it all.
I gotta get in there, y'all. I gotta say something. And I'm going to say this because she wrote a book. So that means nobody's keeping secrets now, right? But the times that we were around and other colleagues that I know, it was a lot of women in that White House.
Mm-hmm.
In that
a whole lot.
And we know how it is when a lot of Black women at that. Okay. And I'll also say that, so when you think about Biden's time and Barack's time, there were a lot of women involved in the leadership positions. And from based on what I could see, they were protecting him.
Biden?
Yes.
Yes, without question. I agree with that.
And
that's
that's
what I
the thing
saw
that
too.
people don't know if you weren't around. They were really protecting him because Biden might say something that he probably shouldn't say. And Corinne and all of them, and even, the former VP was jumping in like, oh, you know how you got to move a granddaddy out the room because he get ready to say something he shouldn't be saying, about to tell you where the safe is. You know what I'm saying? That's what they were doing. And so, and I think that when we look, that's one of the problems that these white men, these lawmakers had. There were too many Black women and too many women at that in power with influence, right? Over the situation for the same reasons why they didn't like Hillary Clinton. And, but so I suspect, I don't know this because I can't say that I witnessed this, that it wasn't a pleasant type of situation. And I'm not saying women cackle, they can't get along, but you know what I mean? If everybody trying to be the one, right? Also, if everybody's chipping in, sometimes people don't know their place, right? You know what I'm saying? And so there were a lot of women and they had a lot of power and control. And those white men did not like that.
Whatsoever.
Right.
Whatsoever.
And at the end of the day, even though that was the case, Biden was still the leader. Right. You know what I'm saying? And so, he was going to make whatever decisions that, because he had the right to do so. But, I don't know if Jill and they care for each other or not. I wouldn't speak to that. But what I will say is that I think that, the tension, probably had more to do with the staff, but the people at the top level, they protected him and they were the ones who were, in terms of that office. She was the vice president. She didn't have, technically, certain powers, but she had influence in that environment. You know what I'm saying? Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We saw that obviously on a regular basis, the amount of, as she said, a lot of women, Biden was surrounded, his staff was women and many Black women. And I think that's another thing too, that, and Greer brought that out too. Those folks don't like that. Black women with a modicum of power, authority, they didn't like that. And we're seeing the spillover from that now too.
Right.
Because who came to the forefront when it was time to run her campaign? It was Black women, baby, all of them. They were always there and they didn't like that.
Yeah, Aquarius Goddess is saying Kamala's former PR person was on Roland Martin last night. Nancy Wall said, I saw her assistant on Roland Martin yesterday, and she suggested that Kamala was up against what Greer is saying. And Patricia Jackson is saying it's called the pivot.
The pivot.
Yeah, so spill the tea, sis. We want to know. Spill it.
And one footnote. Of course, she set the record as vice president for the most tie-breaking votes in Congress. So, for whatever that's worth, but I guess it's worth something. I don't want to dismiss it because it is worth something because the votes, those votes that she broke the tie on, Those were important legislation. So I don't want to dismiss. I don't want people to think I'm dismissing that at all.
And it sounds like she holds the record. So that's history.
Yeah,
Black history fact.
That's a Black history fact. Exactly. The Congressional Black Caucus Foundation has apparently counted Project 2025 with its own playbook. It's called Equity Roadmap Summary. The Congressional Black Caucus Foundation answers Trump's Project 2025. Or actually, that's what I call it. But it's Forward Together, the Black Policy Playbook for an Equitable America, a plan to defend Black communities and advance equity and wealth, health, education, and justice. It's going to roll out. Was it next week when the caucus kicks off? Whatever date later this month when the CBCF annual legislative conference kicks off in DC. They're going to roll out this playbook. And the question, as Project 2025 rolls back writes, will this CBCF's equity playbook help define America's future?
It's good. I mean, I think you have to get the word out to the right powerful people, right? Project 2025 was successful because it was in the hands of the right people to implement it. And so, yeah, I mean, it has the potential, but it has to be in the right spaces and places. And as we know, it's not really about the Black America at large. It's about like making sure that these things are implemented in local, state, and then federal government, right? Because Project 2025 started with things like, making up lies and myths of critical race theory. So what did they do? They ran people to run for school board. Okay. That's how they were able to now at a federal level take over the school system. So if we're implementing this thing on a local and state level across the country, then it has the potential to be just what Project 2025 is. But if we're just putting this out there and hoping that somebody will read it and say it's not going to work, it's about the implementation of it on a local and state level.
There you go. And this next item, Neil, I thought about you.
I just wanted to say the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation will be held September 24th through the 28th in Washington, D.C. It is called Made for the Moment, Power, Policy, and Progress. And we will be on site. So look for us at the Congressional Black Caucus this year.
There you have it. And this next item, I thought about you because, you always say people are doing stuff. They're doing something. There's resistance. And Lori Smith, she's an entrepreneur and she's launching Empowerment Convergence 2025. It's called Sowing Our Seeds Empowerment Convergence 2025. It's going to be at the in Hilton Head, October the 9th to the 12th. And it brings women and veteran-owned businesses together to, as she says, reclaim, reinvent, and rise with growth strategies. So, Neil, is this convergence proof that African Americans are not just surviving racist policies, but actively designing the future?
Wow, that's a lot. And I think that, hey, there's something to keep us busy. We're not so consumed with this Trump administration that we don't know how to pivot and still be successful and succeeding. And I think this is just a great example. We've been talking about the pivot. When we look at these job reports and us losing these career jobs that give us the 401ks and things like that, like what is our pivot? We just talked about Kamala Harris. She's on her pivot. She says she's done with politics for a while. So she's going to get into, her book. That's a pivot. This right here, is a pivot for a lot of women because you have to, reconfigure how you're going to build wealth, maintain your family, and maintain your, your sanity. So yeah, this is a great pivot.
Yeah, well, I got to figure out my pivot. It might be the south of France or wherever that other folks.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're all asking. What is our pivot? If we have to pivot, what will it be?
Yeah. Well, What else you got for us this morning?
We want to pivot into some more headlines.
Yes, I do.
Well, of course, the headlines are still swirling about Charlie Kirk, but I think one of the important takeaways was former President Barack Obama condemned the shooting that led to Charlie Kirk's death. And I think it was important what he said. He said, "We don't yet know what motivated the person who shot and killed Charlie Kirk, but this kind of despicable violence has no place in our democracy." And I think it was important that he said, we don't know what motivated the person, because as we know, we saw on the news yesterday from Fox News to, even Stephen Bannon and so many other conservatives saying like, this is a declaration of war. And it's like, well, whoa, we don't even know who it could have been. Y'all's people that did it. So let's be, slow to point the finger. And let's just kind of see what happens, and there are a lot of mixed reviews about this man. You didn't really see that much on the news yesterday. You saw Trump lowering the flag until Sunday, which a lot of people had issue with, that I think it's important to say that they had issue with, because when you think of the two lawmakers that were shot, one murdered a few months ago, he was quiet as a mouse. You know what I mean? And so, the way that he is governing is very partisan. And I think going back to Barack Obama, this is not what our country is about. You know what I'm saying? Like, this person said a lot of vile things. When you look at the videos that are going around, you see that there are two Americas that are happening, because on my timeline, I didn't know who this person was, this Charlie Kirk person was, but on my timeline, he looked like a despicable Klansman to me. That, you know what I mean? It's like, to me, when I heard the words that came out of his mouth, he lived by the sword he held. He said that people had to die to gun violence to protect the Second Amendment. And so when you see all of these things, I think that this situation points out that there are two Americas that we live in. There is a Black America and there is a white America.
Well, it's really interesting to see the New York Yankees at their game hold a moment of silence, the Kennedy Center and all of that. It's I find it interesting because this wasn't done for those lawmakers in Minnesota who, when somebody went in their bedroom and killed them, this wasn't done for other individuals. And the Yankees are, the biggest name in sports. It is the franchise that, you can go anywhere. The Yankees are pretty popular. I just find it interesting that they would do that. But more, or just as importantly, I think that Trump's government, they don't have a suspect right now. And I don't think it's simply because this shooter is so skilled or so elusive, but I think it's because Trump's own chaos has gutted federal law enforcement. He handpicked woefully unqualified loyalists like Kash Patel to run agencies they have no business leading. He fired decorated agents, including a Pakistani American counterterrorism veteran in Salt Lake City, Utah, replacing competence with cronyism driven by his own racial grievances. And while domestic extremism and political violence surged, Donald Trump ordered FBI agents off terror cases and onto immigration dragnets, patrolling neighborhoods like beat cops instead of tracking real threats. That is why today, after Charlie Kirk was gunned down in public, the FBI director falsely claimed that a suspect was in custody. Then he had to backtrack hours later. The truth really, Neil, is that Trump's irrational firings, nonsensical immigration crusade has left the nation exposed. The failure to deliver justice in this case lies squarely at the feet of Donald Trump.
Yeah, those are some very good points. And I think we have a clip to speak to the character of who Charlie Kirk is. Greer, can we see this clip?
Hate crime 5 times in one night, okay? 3 of them by Trump supporters.
What happened to you?
Okay, for one of them, I was just walking, and then I see this truck full of 4 white men pass by me, MAGA apparel, everything, you know. And then
Did they say this is MAGA country?
anyways, they drove past me and they were like, "You bend over."
Okay, so they said the N-word on campus to you.
Well, yes.
Oh yeah. Okay. So what happened to them when you reported them?
I didn't report them.
Oh really? Okay. So maybe it didn't happen.
Okay. Anyways,
I don't believe you. I'm being honest. I don't believe you. I think
Okay.
you're making it up.
Okay. Anyways,
I refuse to believe that somebody on this campus would go around and sheepishly call you the N-word. I refuse to believe that. I think you're lying.
I
saw a clip somewhere that you were trying to get the officer who murdered George Floyd pardoned, and I just want to know
Yes,
what your
ma'am.
reasoning was about that.
Well, George Floyd didn't die because of the police officer. He died largely because of a drug overdose.
But he had his knee on his neck. And we
Yeah.
all saw the video.
But the knee on the neck is actually an approved police technique that police departments taught Derek Chauvin to use. Do you know that George Floyd was saying, "I couldn't breathe" well before that restraining technique? And
So why'd they use the technique if he already couldn't breathe?
Well, because he was actually resisting arrest, and they had to restrain him, and they restrained him in a way that they were taught to do, which is the knee on the neck technique.
Okay, so when does the like technique end? Like when they die? Like he said he couldn't
No,
breathe.
I mean the technique ends when the individual stops resisting arrest. His cause of death was not asphyxiation; it was drug overdose. He had
that was a part of it. Like he also had a heart like thing, and like he was on drugs, but like he wouldn't have just died if he was standing there. Like they had his
Well,
their knee on
actually,
his
there's an
neck.
argument to be made. According to the medical examiner, he was. I live like a capitalist every single day, Chank. I live as a capitalist. Okay, I live when I believe. What do? I get charity every single year. Hold on. What's my salary? Less than his.
To all the people that are in my comments upset with me because I am making light of Charlie Kirk's death, I want to know, were you also under Charlie Kirk's comments when he said that, yeah, some people might just have to die just so that we can keep our Second Amendment rights? Were you under his comments when he was making fun of George Floyd for passing away? Were you under his comments the incredible amount of times that he has made statements that completely disregarded the lives of children, Black people, gay people, trans people, or any other marginal? I hate this.
It's been about 2.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot about this Charlie Kirk guy. And so I just think that the way the media covered it yesterday, we treated him with more
Like a
dignity
hero.
than he gave us.
Nancy Mace, really, I think it was very telling. She said, the Democrats need to own this, meaning they are responsible for Charlie Kirk's assassination. And when a reporter shot back, well, did the Republicans own those lawmakers getting shot in Minnesota? And she said, her response was, "Are you kidding me?" And to me, that "are you kidding me" says this, and this is to me, it says that, yes, Democrats should own that as well as the Minnesota shooting, because Democrats for the most part should be in the white supremacy movement too. They all should be in the white Democrats who are not down with MAGA, who are not down with the white. They should all be down with it. If not, anything that happens like this, they're responsible for. Because if they all were united in their hate, if they all were united in their white supremacy, then we wouldn't have these problems. We'd have these niggas in chains.
Plot to go be taken somewhat seriously. Play cut 52.
But I rise today as a clear recipient of affirmative action, particularly in higher education. I may have been admitted on affirmative action, both in terms of being a woman and a woman of color, but I can declare that I did not graduate on affirmative action. This is my personal story.
I hear because of action affirmative. She can't even say that. We know. It's very obvious to us that you were not smart enough to be able to get in on your own. I couldn't make it on my own, so I needed to take opportunities from someone more deserving. This is how action. if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. Because of DEI, it begs the question, when you see a black pilot, you wonder, you say, I hope they are qualified. If I'm dealing with somebody in customer service who's a moronic black woman, I wonder, is she there because of her excellence, or is she there because of affirmative action? It almost creates thought patterns that are not necessarily, no one really cares when it's HR managers. No one cared when it was, just kind of paper shufflers or even engineers. But now when it's like, wait, hold on a second. You're going to remove my appendix and you're a black lady. If I see a black pilot.
Yeah. And
the Yankees gave him a moment of silence. The New York Yankees gave a moment of silence.
And let's just, and let's just say that the flags were ordered to fly half staff across this country for that man. Let's marinate on that in the state of America. Okay. We're going to move on because I think that it was important for us to talk about it. But the way that the media is covering this story and the dignity and the grace that they are giving this man is atrocious. It is ridiculous. And yesterday I heard they were comparing the assassination of Dr. King and talking about this man. And I think that right there, we are in trouble, Stacey. So I'm with you. Let's get our passports together. Let's start looking for property
and listen,
abroad.
he also, Nia, let's not forget too that he said slavery was necessary to keep crime down, and blacks don't deserve reparations.
Yeah, that's the Charlie Kirk that Black America knows. Okay. Moving along. According to a new report, Stacey, people are sneaking into hotels by the thousands just to grab complimentary breakfast without ever booking a room. Now, this trend is being linked to skyrocketing food costs across the country. I could believe it.
Oh, I can believe it. I can believe it. Listen, when I go to a hotel and they have some sort of thing going on with the food out and everything, and if the food it looks good, I'm trying it. I'm not 9 times out of 10, who's gonna say something? I tend when I go to when I go to hotels or certain places, I tend to dress the part. So they I just walk up and hey, I belong.
Right.
You got some collard greens over there? Let me try that.
I love how with this headline they had 2 white people being the ones taking the food. Quinn says, shh, don't tell no one. This has always been the hack. Well, the hack, Quinn, is on the rise, okay? I mean, we're not talking about like you, Stacey, you're staying in a hotel. That's just wasn't part of the package that you brought. But they're talking about people coming off the street from around the corner. Let me get this breakfast before I head to work.
I have seen open wedding receptions where I have just wandered over to the to the bar. Listen, you got it open. Congratulations, bridegroom. You got it open. I always say congratulations. Hilarious. John and Nina, congratulations. Who's that guy? Oh, don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Wedding crasher. Okay. And also
OMG.
Look, but some people in the chat are probably like, I'm not gonna say nothing, but I just might try that.
Oh, they doing it already, Neil. They doing it already.
Yep. But back to what Orange G, he says, I'm still waiting on the unredacted version of the Epstein files. Yeah, we won't be talking about that for a while either. So that's something also to think about when all of these things are happening. All right. And moving right along, at the end of the month, y'all, on September 30th, after 34 years, AOL will shut down its dial-up internet service. Now, does anybody still use dial-up internet? Why has it taken them so long to understand?
You remember that? You remember that? It
was the real. You heard it. You know, that was, but you know what? That was like the downfall. That dial-up was really the downfall. Because look at where we are now.
Yeah, of course.
From that dial-up to our phones, to, you know, social media. That was the beginning of the end of critical thinking.
Yep.
You know, and those are your headlines. The rest of your headlines for today.
Dr. Joni says that her husband still has an AOL email account, and so does David Youngblood.
Yeah,
he still has his, but you don't dial up though, right? I mean, David, you're not dialing up. And
but it's
Dr.
still
Joni,
funny to see somebody with an AOL or a Hotmail. You know, you still got a Hotmail account? Or you still got an AOL account? I mean, I still have a Yahoo account.
Uh-oh.
I have a Yahoo account.
I still have a Hotmail, but I don't use it. I can still access it if I wanted to.
Oh, Mike V says if you live in the rural South or Midwest, yes, folks still use dial-up because conservatives didn't want to expand broadband equity under Biden. I believe that because Jim Clyburn, what district does he represent?
South Carolina.
South Carolina. Yeah, there's a big issue with internet down there, and you would be. You know, we're making fun of this, but I think Mike V brings up a really great point. There are a lot of people still in this country who don't have the internet, period, because they don't have broadband because of this very issue that Mike V is talking about. So we're laughing about it, but some people would love to have a dial-up internet service.
By the way, Quinn says, yeah, those people with Hotmail, shaking my head, and RNG points out that Hotmail did change the Outlook. But it still says at hotmail.com for mine. So Michelle's just like me. She still has a Hotmail account, but seldom use it. I don't. Somebody there was a reason that I went into my Hotmail account like maybe a few weeks ago, and it sent me an email there, and it's a good thing because it's like maybe twice a year I go into that account, and I saw it out, and I had to tell the individual to, you know, use my right email, my today email, not my, 2001 email.
I'm over here now.
Listen, I've been over here. Where you been? Using dial-up. That's his problem. Stop using that dial-up.
Yeah. So get all your dial-up in before September 30th because it's gonna say la vie.
But Niel, to be honest with you, Greer said that you got an 11-year-old computer, so stop playing, girl.
11-year-old, I might, but it works. I'm not, speaking of, they just came out with the new iPhone, the next series, the next elevation. I'm not one to just get a new computer or phone because there's a new version out. I'm one to get one when it stops working.
Well, isn't it kind of scary now too to go with I don't know. They track everything anyway, but now this new iPhone that they give you even more intel on the individual who owns it now.
They might.
Listen, this stuff, man, I gotta get out of here.
I mean, Rosie O'Donnell, what's her name? Jimmy Kimmel, he got his dual citizenship. Who else? Who's Ellen DeGeneres? The white folks, they left. They packed up and left after the day he was elected in November. They didn't even wait for the inauguration. They left.
RNG says he has a new flip phone with free minutes. Thanks, Obama.
Okay, remember the Obama phones? People talk about Obama didn't do nothing for us. Dude, everybody had an Obama phone.
But Greer says now Trump is saying you can't have dual citizenship.
Oh.
Mike says Mike V is telling me to get my Benin citizenship. I'm not going to Benin. I'm going somewhere else, Mike. I'm going. I don't know. Maybe I need to go totally off the grid.
Patricia Jackson said, sadly, most can't
Right.
leave, and that's true. But I think it's because we've been conditioned not to think about that. I was surprised to be here in California to know that there are a lot of people who've never been to the beach. I'm just talking about Compton and Watts, and they've never been to the beach. So, I just think that we've been conditioned to believe that we can't, right? But when you look at other people, look at how many people from the continent of Africa, Nigeria, and Ghana, with little or nothing, but they make it to America because they want a better life. We always thought that this was it. I think that we need to reprogram our minds that there's a big world out there, and it's bigger than this country. There's more to see, there's more to know. And that's why so many people come here, because they've heard of the American dream. Maybe we need to hear about some other dreams in some other lands.
Well, I'm gonna be like Russell Simmons. I'm going to Bali.
Yeah, Bali's nice, and
It's nice.
he's okay.
Yeah.
Once he had to get out, he left. And he has conditioned himself to be a yoga master.
Yeah, he has.
And in Hollywood, the people go to Usher, Diddy, Taraji P. Henson, and a whole bunch of other people who said, no pictures, Russell. I'm here, but don't post it, okay? So I think that we need to reprogram our minds that there's a big world out there, and it's available to us.
And they love Russell over there. They absolutely adore him over there. He's like a king over there. So he should be all right. I think he miss home and stuff like that at times, but I don't know. When I'm out of here, I'm out of here. I don't miss it. I'm not gonna miss it.
Felicia Williams said, yes, you can have dual citizenship. David Youngblood says the American dream can be found in other places. Patricia Jackson says, yes, but right now some places treat African Americans not so good. And then Michelle Madison said, I found the same thing when I lived in Florida. I talked to so many Black people who never went to the beach. Yeah, you'd be surprised at how many things that you take for granted in your own state and city that most people haven't even ventured out to see or know.
Listen, Greer says she said to tell Russell she's coming, but no pictures.
Right. No pictures. Nuh-uh. I don't want the smoke. Not in this cancel culture society we live in.
Hey, listen, when I'm gone, you can cancel me all you want. I could care less. I'm taking pictures. I'm gonna be out there posing yoga style with Russell.
Patricia Jackson says travel will broaden your experience.
It does.
Yeah, it really does. It is a big world out there, and I think that in this climate, we should be trying to see it.
Yep. Folks, some Black history facts on this date in 1851. The Christiana riot erupted near Lancaster, or as they say, Lancaster, or however they say it, Pennsylvania, when Black residents and white abolitionists defended escaped slaves from capture. Maryland slaveholder Edward Gorsuch was killed. The fugitives, they fled to Canada, and dozens were arrested in a treason trial that absolutely collapsed. The event drew national attention to the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. That's what happened on this date in 1851.
I love it. I love it. Today in 1970, the Flip Wilson Show premiered on NBC, okay? And the variety show made Flip Wilson the first African-American since Nat King Cole to host a primetime variety series. Now, the show became the second most watched program in the U.S. and that's during its first 2 seasons. And Wilson was known for his catchphrases that included, "What you see is what you get," and "The devil made me do it."
He was before his time with that variety show, and he had a who's who. If you were famous, you were on the Flip Wilson Show. And I always liked the bit with when he had the Temptations on with the Church of What's Happening Now.
Yeah. And before there was Medea, there was Flip Wilson, right? Tyler Perry did Medea, but Flip Wilson was doing it first.
Yeah, and then the bit with Red Fox.
Geraldine, that's her, Geraldine.
Geraldine, yeah, that show was absolutely amazing. I still watch it sometimes. It was absolutely amazing, and I find it interesting because, like I said, no matter who you, white, black, or whatever, you was a big star. You hit the Flip Wilson show, and later we saw that with Arsenio Hall. You name it, they were on the Arsenio Hall show. So I mean, it's Arsenio was strictly a talk show. Flip was a variety show. So I'm not trying to say that they're the same, but still two black icons of late night or the nighttime television anyway. But there you go, the Church of What's Happening Now.
That's hilarious.
Oh gosh, it was absolutely hilarious. So Flip Wilson, that's a good one. That's a great one. Wow. All right. I can talk about Flip all day, folks. So let's move on to our Black-owned newspaper of the day, the Bayou Beat. The Bayou Beat is a news organization with roots in Houston, Texas, that was founded by CEO and publisher Nakia Cooper. It started as a dominant online presence before transitioning to a print newspaper and expanding into podcasting and a YouTube channel. Bayou Beat focuses on community and untold stories, particularly those related to the Black community, with the motto, "We are not going anywhere anytime soon." So our Black-owned paper is the Bayou Beat.
Yes, and for the Bayou Beat and all the other Black headlines happening across the good old United States of America, you can head to blackpressusa.com, and you'll get what you need to know from the Black point of view.
Yep. And tomorrow's Friday, so join us tomorrow. We will have some more for you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you then.